All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Horn, and I am the new Saratoga Museum Director. And on behalf of the Saratoga Museum and the Saratoga Friends of the Library, we are holding this event to honor Dick Perue, who really doesn't need much of an introduction. And Dick is going to give us a presentation on some of the ways he has preserved local history. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to Dick.
Can you hear me without this?
No.
Good. Welcome and thank you for the great turnout. It took me 90 years to get you people here, but I'm glad you're finally here. If you don't know me, I'm Dick Perue, and as I introduce myself when I do tours and programs, if you're from out of town or not familiar with me, I'm a local historian, and of course the rest of you know me just as a local BSer, so we'll do a program today. And I put this program together over the last 75 years. I started out as a kid of 15 years old and started the program and get history on it. Now, what we have is, you want to pick up, if you didn't get a comment or a Saratoga Sun, why, my life history's in there. And so I won't give you that today. And what I did is, every program that I do, I have a printed pamphlet or a program or a little brochure. All the years I've gathered them up, I have photos and brochures over there. Take a couple and leave some so everybody gets some programs. And I'm going to keep this short enough that hope all our kiddies last long enough. I don't have to worry about on the program. Anyway, we'll just do this. And I'm having a little trouble standing up, so I'm going to be sitting down. So you'll see this up here, and I'll give you the history. As most of you know, or as said, my what did you mess up? Okay. Is that clicker work? Oh, okay. I can handle that. But anyway, my lifetime goal has been preserving local history one picture at a time. And which one?
Oh dear.
Oh. Hey, you know, I'm really great at everything except electronics, and I've had 3 days of nothing but electronics failing me. Okay, that one? And I'll tell you, I'm thankful for Justin because he understands this stuff. But I'm going to take him down to the print shop and see if he can have set type. Anyway, this collection came. I started at the Saratoga Sun as a kid, 15 years old, as a printer's devil, and it was owned by Bob and by the Martins, and they had it since 1917. And they were not only great editors and publishers and community supporters, they were great historians, and they collected all this stuff. And so I'm going to show you. And the top photograph is of out at Emmer's on the Overland Trail, just about Emmer's Crossing. And this is the oldest known photograph that I have. I think it's probably 1878, when I'm mistaken. But look at the sign on it. It says, "The cowards never started, the weak died on the way. Only the strong arrived. They were the pioneers." When you think about it, that's the way we all got here. And this is Hansen type. This is how we used to print the press. And it used to take about 14 hours to print a 12-page paper of 900. We went to offset and printed it. It took them 30 minutes. This is the only known photograph that I've ever seen that has actually warm springs. A lot of you probably already know Saratoga was Warm Springs from 1878 until 1884. And so what we had was, this was the post office. And in that Bob Martin collection, I still have the original Postmaster Commission in the original envelope it came in. And that's what we need to get to a museum. I made copies of it, and it hangs in the museum. But to have that originally, not only that, when they changed it to Saratoga and they dismissed the present postmaster, I have material that says that he's no longer postmaster. Unfortunately, I don't have Saratoga's original, but the Warm Springs is a lot different. The reason they changed from Saratoga to Warm Springs was a man moved here from Saratoga Springs, New York, and he was back then what was considered the mayor, so he decided to change the name. But anyway, and this is the mail carrier, the one that has a Platte Valley Lyre. Now that's Lyre, which means the home, old music and harmony. And the editor was quite a bit of BSer, but if you spell it any way except Lyre, he said, you will be shot immediately. But he's also known as the Third Lyre of the West, so a lot of people say lyre, so you have to explain it. You can see the layers of the lyres that's up on top. And after the Caldwell started it, after a while he sold it to two women, and they were the first two women editors and business managers in newspapers in the state of Wyoming. And they're in the doorway. So a lot of this comes from that collection. There's when I started on the last there, 100 pounds ladder is Dick Perue at 15 years old. And then on the other side is if you get a really good education, you go and do a lot of good business, you go serve your country, and you become a kind of community business leader and a historian. Well, you can go back and do the same work you did 75 years ago. But anyway, and in the center is my wife, Courtney, and I was the editor, publisher, janitor, whatever else that needs to be done for years, and Marty was the business manager. The top picture is the oldest known drawing that we have of Saratoga, and this was 1898, and we have another one in 1903 later on. But the Hot Springs Hotel's in the left-hand corner, and it burned down in 1903. But see how the river runs through the town, and that, and it's a wolf. I think the wolf's there. Yeah. But anyway, that's what part of this collection is you have a great drawing where you can see things are located. This is a 1903. Look how much it had grown from 98 to 1903. And then on the bottom, why this was a promotion for some similar to Chamber of Commerce. It tells you how many light plants we have, how all the different history of Saratoga. And these were called copper plates or cut. They were made out of copper so you could print off of them. And almost every one of these has disappeared over the years, and particularly during World War II. They gathered them all up to make bullets out of them. They melted them down. And so a lot of them didn't exist. However, Bob Martin, that I bought the newspaper from and worked for him for years, he taught me the newspaper business. He still, when he showed them to me, he still had pangs. But what he did, he wrapped about 6 of these up of historical value in the newspaper, put them in the basement, and hid them. And when I bought the newspaper, he took me down to the basement and said, here's these. And he was still being conflicted concerning the fact that maybe he should have did the war effort, but I think he did the right thing about it, because otherwise it wouldn't be preserved. And this and another one's at encampment, and I have some others that are going to Saratoga and we're displaying. But I've taken these, and Al's done the same thing. We put them on the press, and you can print right that off of it. So, and if somebody has one of those that I printed on it, who has that Saratoga one? 1903. Hold it up. But anyway, these were things that the newspaper and what was the chamber then? See, it would be unprinted on. But right now, see, the 1903, the Hot Springs Hotel that burned down, that's where the Saratoga Inn is now. Or for you new people, the Saratoga Resort and Spa and Jiffy Lube or whatever it is called nowadays. Oh, what they, oh. Thank you.
Don't get excited, Edward.
Now, this is a 1987 picture, and it was taken in 3 different shots. And this right there is Bedford Island on the left-hand side, and then that shows the southwest end of Saratoga. Here's the center, and as you can see, it's got the wolf and look at the Waterloo Hotel, the fancy hotel right toward in the center of the picture. But that's the one that's fallen down nowadays. And see the picture in the front, right over the top? It's called the Spotted Dog Saloon, and if you look at the bottom, well, there's a spotted dog right in front of it. Look down at the front of the picture in the front, and a lot of you will recognize that. That's the one that Triple D remodeled, and it's on the corner. And I have several pictures of this, and they came and got those pictures when they redid that remodeling job. So this historical preservation, a lot of times I have people, not only for publications, but for architecture and that type of thing. I have a lot of people come and say, do you have a picture of my place? And in that collection, most of it we do. This is the completely other end, and where that little island is, that's where the highway bridge goes across now. As we looked, in this other one, see the bridge is right in the same place the Bridge Street Bridge was. But the other one was goes down there and runs across the island. And we moved to town from the big ranch in 1949 because of the bad winter. We couldn't get to school. We lived right there, and we used to play on that island as a kid. And they took the island out because it would cause problems with the debris going against the new bridge. But now it's all building back up again, and they've got to be taking it out, or it's going to be causing us a lot of problems. Now I'm going to get how we got different collections and do how with it. And a lot of history and books, and a lot of our authors are using this historical material to do it. And one of the first ones, and although at one time, when we had 12 employees, and six of them have become national and international known authors, and we'll get into that later. But one of the first ones is how Gay did not technically write or work for me, but she did a lot of writing she didn't get paid for. But when you wanted to know the history, and she could write you a good obituary, well, Gay did. And that Tough Country book, if you ever get a chance to find it, is probably the best early history that you'll ever find on the Saratoga and the Upper North Platte River Valley and encampment and a lot of Carbon County. The other one is the earliest known photograph of Elva Evans. She was born on the Four Bar Ranch, up next to the pit, and we were neighbors for a long time. But that's Elva as a kid on her homemade horse, and so we had a lot of fun because Elva's book, that Saratoga 150 Years, which I helped edit, and then we worked together on it. We tried it for years. We finally got it in manuscript form so we could do it. We sat down at the kitchen table, sorted over 300 photographs in that collection to get to 80 to win the book. And Gay's book is technical, and she wasn't the best writer, but she was the best researcher. And if you want the accurate history of Saratoga, read that. Elva was a great writer, and it's easy to read. But her facts were there, but it's presented in an easy way to read it. Of course, this is part of the collection. That was a glass plate, roundup. I have a book out, one of the first ones I did, that was called Writing the Stage. And I interviewed Anna Paulson. A lot of you know the Paulson family, the Donnas, and AIDS are part of the Paulson family. And as a bride of 16 years old, she rode in on this stage, and she's holding the picture that I took this photograph of here. And she was telling me all the great things that she'd seen right on top of that stage, and all the other things she'd seen in the valley. I did an interview, and it just hit on at me. Something needs to be done with that. So it occurred to me, write a thing that says called Riding the Stage, and then tell, and I'm going to show that later on, and tell what she saw back when she came here in I think it was 1910 or something like that. But she, you can interview somebody that has a picture that is actually wrote on that stage. So and she gave me a lot of great insight. We had a lot of prospectus books. Everybody was trying to sell sell you some claim and mining claim, or trying to sell you shares to the Saratoga Kent Railway, or invest in the stage line, or buy a ranch. And in these prospectus books, you think prospectus things are bad nowadays? You got to see some of these. The material had some history to it, but most of it was glorified. But the thing that you could have was a great thing. All these great pictures that were in these books. And with the new technology, I used to have to take a picture of it, develop the negative, and make a print. Now they have the scanners, and I can do all the other stuff if I can remember how to run this. But this is one of this picture here is one of those out of that prospectus book of the Wolf Hotel. You also had a lot of folks that were sending us, particularly early days, Bob Martin, when the paper thing was starting to disappear, and they'd send you these great small photographs to preserve. And what we have nowadays, well, you can have that great pictures like that. But is that a great picture of the stove? Look at the quality. You can read that calendar. Those little Kodak cameras and things, those old cameras got such good detail. And you also got a great photograph because it costs so much. Nowadays you shoot 100 of them on here, pick the best one. Back then you better have the right composition and the best photograph you can get, because you probably only had one chance. Fish fries. A lot of you have seen this photograph. They would catch over 4,000 trout, and they'd have these big fish fries. And this was over Veterans Island, and so that Veterans Island has been there for every year. So it's called Caldwell Island. You have to be careful. We have 2 Caldwells and a Cadwell. And so we have and a lot of people do Cadwell and make it Caldwell instead of that. But anyway, they had the guys that go out and catch these trout. And the lines, we wanted to reenact it. We couldn't use the local trout because they weren't good enough. We had to buy them commercially. That's how things so far they've got so far out of hand. But these big fish fries, and look at on the bottom and behind there, and there's a big chuck wagon down at the end that shows. And the great thing about this photograph is everybody that could be is identified on it. And the marshal's standing on the end, but that's where everybody shipped in and did these projects. Now, the Saratoga hot springs, the mineral springs, is probably the only reason Saratoga is here is because of the mineral waters and what they settled around. And this is a lady drinking out of the mineral springs, and people said, "Oh, I would drink out of that." They used to actually bottle it and sell it all over the country. And these are the labels that were printed to put on the bottles. And those cuts are still down to printing, and Alan continues to preserve them. And if you want one printed off that, he could go down and put it on the press and print you a label for that. But there was four different ones: Aquatone, and then the Saratoga mineral water, the Paulson mineral well, and then it was part of the Aquatone, but Aquatone was just the natural water. The others they would put ginger ale or or make carbonation out of it. And then the other thing is, with all the printing that's been preserved over the years, what I do and Alan still does, we save 1 or 2 copies of every thing that's printed there, and Bob Martin saved all that. This is the Richmond barn. It burned down in the 1960s, and it's just about burned the whole town down. It would be just east of where the post office is, and that caught fire. And see these big doors? I ran out there to take a picture of it. I was looking at my camera and I had a 2 1/4 reflex, and that makes things look further off than they actually are. I heard this bang, and to take pictures of the fire, I looked up, and here come these barn doors right at me, and they missed me about 4 feet from where it was that the fire blew those off of it. So the Masonic Hall, which is just ready to see the top of it, it survived, but that burned that building to the ground on that thing. But look at the letterhead up at the top, and on there, on the left-hand side, there's old cash. Look on the right-hand side what credit looks like. If you look at all these things preserved, why you can get kind of the humor in the ones that are there. The first Carbon County State Fair, or Carbon County Fair, was held in Saratoga, and that's out there by, as you go, the old Baldy Club, where the rodeo grounds used to be. And this is one of the pictures that from Bob Martin and the Dick Perue collection. But look, and this is another glass plate, but also it had the history on the back of it. And S.S. Wood was not only a photographer, but he was a taxidermist. And his family brought me, every time I turn around, somebody's bringing a whole bunch of photographs, glass paintings, pictures, manuscripts. But isn't that quite a bit of taxidermy thing there? He did 2 things. He got his taxidermy, his photography, and his kids, all in the same picture. This one, a lot of you knew Anna Paulson, or not Anna Paulson, Anna Pilot Stubbs, and she lived to be 103 years old, and she used to bring me. I'd go pick her up. She had to move to Cheyenne to take care of her daughter, and she'd call me up, and I'd go pick her up, and she'd bring me photo albums all the time, and a lot of my pictures come from these photo albums. But when she's 90 years old, I took a video camera. First time I had a video camera, and I don't know how I got it, but I got a good program out of it, and a lot of history. But anyway, she's 90 years old. I'm trying to photograph her. She's crawling on these black rail fences and walking faster than I can. When she was 100, she did the prescriptor to go up after that pretty quick. But she wouldn't. This was her school, that's her teacher, that's her parents, but that was also her schoolhouse. We're on that rock. I've got a picture when she's 90 years old, sitting on the same rock. So, the other one, you ranchers will recognize this. That this photograph had enough that still, the afterbirth is still hanging out a part of that cow, and you see part of it here. But I wanted to emphasize more when I blew it up. If you know anything about cattle, you don't stand between the cow and the calf. And look how Johnny Oak, he's got both of them protection there. There's 2 things, the protection and the afterbirth, and also the fact that the first of them had twins on that. Okay, then wines. The wine Lee family provided me with 120 photographs for historical preservation. And this was a snowstorm in 1926, one of the ones like that. A lot of you know Francis, that's her family. Wolfers, the Teens Wolfers family. Teens kept bringing me photographs all the time, so I don't know how many you have. And then a lot of these photographs were used. There's Kenny Olson that had the pig ranch, and there I am. We did a tour and we're going to next Tuesday talks. We're going to show that program. There's Kenny Olson on the pig ranch, and I can't remember how many Kenny brought, but anyway, he also brought me a lot of photographs. This is one. This is where Marty, my wife's mother was born in this cabin, and she always pointed out to me, this is on Beaver Creek, up by the 1-bar-11 ranch. They started out with a one-room cabin on that end. For every 2 kids they added another room. But anyway, that shows the old one. The Union Pacific Railroad used to come there and photograph a lot of ones, particularly in the after World War 1940s. But that's a photograph of the 1-bar-11 ranch. But this one I used particularly because you could reproduce that brand, and a lot of people don't realize 1-bar-11 do it. But this also had great history with it. This is the Sanger, what was called the Eight Cross Ranch, which was between Jenkins on French Creek and Sanger on the river. But see, you see clear up there where the confluence of the French Creek and the Platte River is. That's Chuck and Bobby Sanger, and when Sanger's sold that, the outfit that bought it hired me to write the history of it, do the photographs. And they had it up for sale, and eventually White's that have the Westbrook Ranch bought it. But Chuck and Bobby provided 243 photographs that I sorted to put into the book. But isn't that a great picture of the ranch and the country? And his sister, Kathy Sanger, and his mother, Kathy Sanger brought me that. I love this for 2 reasons. Not only did she provide 100 and some photographs, but look at this beautiful, all of us would always love that big, beautiful cedar tree that was right by the bridge. When the bridge went down, why that tree got destroyed. But the composition on that photograph, is, for a black and white photograph, is one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
That was made on a little snapshot. Most all these come off snapshots are not professional photographers. This one, Vera Wood McCarter, a lot of you know Vera, or knew her. But anyway, I love this Happy Fisherman. They had a guide service there, and they could go out and fish, and where he stayed was in that teepee. And she 170 pictures. Most of them were faded out completely that I could hardly, I had to work with them really hard to get them so we could get good photographs. The other place is a lot of people will send you old Christmas cards or postcards or things like that. This is at the Cozy Canyon Ranch up on Spring Creek. But this was a kind of like a postcard. Only on the back of it was a Christmas card from Hernandez that owned that. But isn't that a great picture of the Spring Creek that runs in front of it? And you can tell it's in the fall. That's not colored with the footage started. This Ledbetter, and we have some Ledbetter folks here today. Jack Ledbetter, Joe Jones is related to that. He brought me 130 negatives. I mean, they were all wadded up like this, and you could hardly do it. And then somebody tried to tape part of them. And if you do tape on old negatives, it's going to peel the acetate in the back right off of them. And so I had to cut a lot of this, but these were great photographs. And down in the corner, why, that's Jack Ledbetter taking a picture of himself in the mirror.
Selfie.
I had to look at that a little while to figure it out. How come he's using the wrong hand to punch the tape? That makes it a negative when you take a picture in the one. The other one is, look at the fox thing up in the right-hand corner. I kept seeing a lot of pictures of Jack, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was going through the collection. Here sits Evelyn with one of her another woman and a dog, and she's holding a camera just exactly like. They both had cameras that were exactly alike on the same thing. So that's where those different photographs were coming from. And I was trying to figure out the identification on it. A lot of them were identified, but I looked at one of them, and here's this Rex lard can. Have you ever seen a Rex lard can? And I couldn't figure out what it was there for. That was Rex's lunchbox. The rest of them all had lunchboxes and were having a picnic, but Rex had his own, and his name was Rex. This one, of course, fishing. We've got to have fishing in Saratoga. We had a lot of the fishing ones. And Len and Pat Benson, when they left Saratoga, they brought me 177 photographs of all the different ones of fishing and that type of thing. And of course, I had quite a few of myself. I've been able to float that river myself now one or two times. But look down here, there's sheetrock. We used to have several astronauts that visited here in Saratoga, and they'd come here, and as long as we kept it quiet, they'd keep coming back and floating the river and doing things. But they would send us these great pictures of that. That's Saratoga Lake, the airport, the river through town. It was called Saratoga, but they would not. They asked you not to credit it to them, because I don't know whether they were supposed to send it to us or not, but they did. But anyway, that's one of them, and I have several of those. This one is the forerunner to Trout Unlimited, Sawyer Ranch Fish Propagation Association. If you look at that looks as an oval. Actually, it was a circle, a complete circle, and I did it that way because I like the way it looked like he's really pulling that fish in. But some of the things I do history on the back, or I have history with it. This one I did about, you could join the Fish Propagation Association for $5. They had 140 some members in Laramie and Saratoga, but that was another one. This fish hatchery I did both the 75th anniversary and the 100th anniversary of the Saratoga Fish Hatchery, and that's up at the top is Howard Coonish, and the Saratoga Fish Hatchery had it shipped all over internationally. Howard is loading trout to go to New Zealand, to Rotorua, New Zealand. When I was in New Zealand, and I wasn't aware of it, I went there and discussed Saratoga Springs, and they got the fish and the story of them coming from Saratoga. And I booked a trip on the lake there, and I told the guy, I said, I have a picture of the trout on the other end. He says, if you promise to send that to me, all the rest of the day is free. So, can you imagine? Did you take a picture and fish for the same trout to send us that same trout? But our fish hatchery, a lot of them, it doesn't get much publicity nowadays, but it does a great job. This is a love story. And I can see some of you smiling already, because you know, this is Ruth Ward Brock. And the shelter house in the background was built by the CCC boys. The concentration camp when they were here in the 1930s up to about 1940. Ruth used to ride her horse in front of this all the time. And Avon was one of the CCC boys who was building this. And 65 years later, they were still happily married. And now a lot of you know New Virginia Large, and most of you probably have one of her paintings. But anyway, she did a great thing, and I used to do all her PR work for her. And she kept trying to give me a painting, and I know how poor she was. She traded a lot of it. And my niece, Marion, and then my brother John did projects that helped with this. One of the best programs I've had, and I've showed it several times about the Virginia Large one, but she kept trying to get that to me. And I said, no, he needs the money. And after about 2 years after she passed away, I went and paid $1,000 for her paintings. Anyway, had that. And that's all kind of how we got into the history of things. Now, what we're going to do is I'll show you the called the writing the stage. Or did I do that one, or did I do? Oh, I'll just run through some other pictures of that. That's the end of that one, isn't it? Is that the end? Oh. Oh, okay. Go that second one. Okay. These, we don't have that on look, do we? Okay. What I did here is, and if I get too long, let me know. What I did here is just put together some pictures that are from this collection. Our old rodeo grounds, first training in Saratoga. There's the Episcopal Church in the background, breaking a horse. Most dangerous job in the country, right there. If you didn't get a leg broke, you fell into the water and it was almost freezing, or it sucked you under. But that used to have those big tide rides. This is one of my favorite photographs. This is a Bob Martin photograph, the one of the newspapers that trained me. 10 mile in is to the left and down to the center. 1,200 people attended that international ski jumping, and they had a 70 meter and 90 meter one. And this was before that had Steamboat and Jackson and all those had it. But Saratoga was qualifying for the Olympics. But look at that shot and that line right underneath there in the center of the photograph. That's the cars on the Story Range Highway. This one's a fun one too. Anyway, you got your birds, you got your fish, you got your cans, you got the guy, and that bottle is a carbonated bottle from the Saratoga mineral well, and then slow gin, some booze. Now, take a look between the tent and the vehicle. See that guy by looking out at you? What do you think he's doing? If you ever take a picture of somebody taking a leak, that's just how they look. You say, what are you taking my picture for? This is another neat one. This is Dick Parker. On the bottom down there, the snow is Dick Parker's, and that's Scott Parker's. A lot of you know the Scott family. But isn't that a classic pose? And this is when they're doing hauling the logs in for a log house. But beautiful gray horse, beautiful black, my name is Sorrow. But anyway, I just love that one. This is the Saratoga Encampment Railway up along the Encampment River through the Bag of Rocks. Now, Cecil Ryan had taken about 400 photographs, and he, at one time, he said, you come and get those negatives and glass plates. I said, yes, I'll be up there. And I took 25 at the time. And in the meantime, he passed away. And I went back up to get the others. And they weren't there anymore. As Gay used to tell me, when trumpets are passed, you better take them. Well, when good historical negatives are passed, or biscuits, you better take them because they may not come around another time. This one, you saw those guys taking those logs down the river. Well, at night, these are supply boats, and they'd all go ahead. There was 3 different ones. One had equipment, one had tents, and one had the groceries and that type of thing. They'd go ahead, prepare the evening meal, and they'd have a place to sleep. Then they'd roll up the bedrolls, and then they'd go down the river. That's just below the pig ranch. There, we have to have one here with the cattle drive through Saratoga. A lot of you remember Donald Pharmacy, but that's just another one. The historical thing from the 1878 photograph to recent years. This is out of order, but this is where the Saratoga Inn is, and this is a photograph I'd taken in the 60s on that, and it shows the bridge that went down in 49. This is the depot. This is your Saratoga Museum. And this moved it through town to make the Saratoga Museum out of it. They told us we couldn't do it, but then we'd already had it moved before they told us we couldn't do it. This one, you know where the outhouse is now? This is what that street used to look like. See, there was five different buildings in there. And the Len Sports Shop was on the end. Of course, there's Shire's on the right-hand side. This had a bear. The Stockbrokers Association was having a meeting in Saratoga, and they heard a bear came through. So Raymond all got on his horse, went out and shot the bear. It was more down to the river, but that's right down to Saratoga. But you see the bear laying on the bottom. A lot of folks will look at that. The horse isn't too happy about the bear to start with. Raymond is pretty proud. You've got a vehicle on the other side. You show that to some people, they'll see 6 or 7 different photographs in that thing of what it is. But it's a great photograph. Okay, now that one I said was out of order. In the 1930s, this is the Saratoga State Park. Look at the angle on that. Bob Martin I flew almost the same angle that Bob Martin did to take the picture of the inn. The Saratoga Inn, where the big long grass area is, why it would be on the other end of it was where the Saratoga Inn is. Petra's Island, you can see where the bridge goes across there. And then the shelter house is right down, you just barely see part of it down in the bottom right-hand corner. But what would be the odds that two of us would fly almost the same angles and get a picture of it 30 years apart? This is just a fun kayak with a runaway load. And of course, we have to have the mineral, that's where the Hobo pool is now, but it was all made out of natural rock. The only thing that still is there is the place where it comes out of the lobster pot by the car. There's that depot where the second part of right in front of where the sawmill is now, but we moved it right through town and put it up there. This is one of the ones here, and it said, it was a brochure. It says, see Rome and die, see Saratoga and live. This is when it was the Citizen Hotel. That was the top of the letterhead, but the bottom of the letterhead gave you all the things that were happening there. So our business people were promoting the Saratoga, the fishing, the hunting, the mineral hot springs. And back then, we had a really good ski area. This is a rare photograph, and that's on Main Street. The other side of the post office is east of this. But look, there on the right-hand side, and you can see the Saratoga Presbyterian Church. Look there on the left-hand side, you can see St. Barnabas Episcopal Church. That's probably the best wide angle of that time I've seen, because those are almost 3 blocks apart. But that's a great one. And here's Saratoga baseball team, and that was the one that ends there. What I really love is when they have really love is when I can find it with the name on. That's a real treasure. Okay, that's just a fun one. Now we'll get to the serious stuff. I've highlighted one of my rules. Don't make it longer than your kidneys will last out. Most of you are all ready to go. Now what we're going to do is just have a birthday party, and then what will show up here is just it'll be on a continual one, just a whole bunch of pictures, and I apologize for the length of them, but it took me 90 years to collect it, and I guess I thought I had 90 years to present it. But anyway, I appreciate everybody attending, And I have about 20 of these programs like this, and they'll all be going to the Saratoga Museum, and hopefully that will preserve our history. Thank you again, and have a good day.
Go over to the cake, please. You will go over to the cake, and if you'd all join me in singing happy birthday to Dick. Happy birthday.